What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward as we have new factors involving Tesla, but you should be watching for as time progresses. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon in just 2 days. Anyways, for Tesla, we're holding up very, very well so far, trying to push towards our 200 EMA, very close to this 234 resistance. If we break this, we'll be looking for another push even higher, but so far, like I said before, it's holding up well. I want to mention that whether this gets a break or not depends on a lot of different factors if we can actually break this EMA or not. So I'll give you guys more information about this, SPY, ES, and the other tickers in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about some big news that came out. Tesla just replaced Ford as Morgan Stanley's top pick in US autos, but the robotaxi expectations are a little bit too high in many of these analysts' opinions. So, what does this mean for us moving forward? Basically, Adam Jonas came out in the morning and he said that basically Tesla's leading the US auto stocks. On top of this, he has a $310 price target. He's also implying 40+% upside, not to mention the fact that Tesla is doing a great job in terms of its growth. He did imply that what's going on right now is that there's a very, very high expectations for the robotaxi. They're a little bit too high. I have to be very, very careful with that. But for the long term, he's a very, very big bull, and he's very excited for what else is about to come. He also gave a lot of comments about Tesla China, how the revenue is going to be around 10% of the Tesla auto units volume. And then also it's going to make up about 6 to 7% of the total group revenue. So something else that's worth noting. But because of his bullish targets and the fact that he thinks that Tesla will outperform the market is a very, very good piece of news. That helped Tesla bounce quite a bit. Now, for other factors about the markets, let me just clarify that tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. There's not really much data coming out before the market opens. We do have some home prices reports, but it's very minor. And then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the JOLTS job openings and job quits reports. That's going to be important 30 minutes after open, so look for some volatility then. Besides that, at 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed Services and Services Revenue reports coming out, so it might cause some volatility too. Once again, very, very minor stuff. The most important move is going to come at 10 o'clock a.m. However, there's another very, very important factor with mentioning. I talked about McDonald's earnings in the mornings, by the way. I talked about it in the morning, by the way. McDonald's did not do too well. They missed on EPS and revenue. However, going into tomorrow, it's going to be Tuesday. We have SoFi and PayPal announcing their earnings. This could cause another big move for these stocks and also for the markets. I think PayPal will be very significant for the morning. And then after the market closes, we have AMD, which is important for semiconductors. And then Microsoft is going to be big for tech. It's going to have a big effect on the QQQ, so get ready for that after market close tomorrow. For Wednesday, we have Meta and ARM. And then Thursdays when we have Amazon, Apple, Intel, Coinbase, and a bunch of huge tech earnings. So expect some crazy volatility between Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday after the market closes when this will really start. And then Wednesdays also when we have the FOMC meeting, which Jerome Powell talking again. That's going to cause some big volatility too. If the Fed implies or says anything about a cut, there's going to be a very, very big move in the markets. Can't wait to see what that is. We'll have to wait and see. Now, as far as more data goes, the fear and greed index is currently at neutral, kind of in the middle right now, a little bit closer to fear. So the market is still very indecisive. Momentum is also very, very indecisive in the neutral phase. Not to mention the puts and call option positioning. We're still quite fearful right now. We're still seeing more puts being bought. The 5-day average is still going up. So that's something else that's worth noting. And then the VIX is still holding up decently. It hasn't really made a very, very big move quite yet. So what am I seeing for the markets, guys? The market's actually very indecisive for the most part. A lot of tickers are still kind of shopping around, but Tesla, of all things, outperformed the market as it was up 5.6% for the day. So look at the 200 EMA at this 234 area. If Tesla breaks this, I think we're easily going to be going up to where this previous level was. So we have this previous support becoming resistance very close to 238. So I think that's going to be our next target for Tesla. And we also happen to have an imbalance right there. So this is actually aligning very, very well. And if that breaks, we could be pushing well into the 240s. So in my personal opinion, make sure you watch those levels very, very carefully. 238 would be our next target if we break past 234. If we were to get rug pulled, just hypothetically, because one thing worth mentioning about Tesla is it's very news-based. The news is having a big effect on the volatility and the kind of price action we get. If we were to lose 232, I'd be looking at 229. If that were to fail, we'd be looking for a dip all the way down to 225 or so. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. But as of right now, Tesla's looking more bullish. There's a good chance that this is going to likely try to continue to push. I think that this might try to go a little bit higher. So I think we're gonna be retesting 234 to 235 tomorrow, and we'll have to see if it breaks. I think it might push a little bit higher. We'll see what kind of reaction we get. As of right now, the share price is trying to favor upside, but we need to watch to see if we break this resistance for confirmation. What else is very good for Tesla is when you look at the 4-hour time frame. The 4-hour turned a little bit more bullish, but then simultaneously we have our 50 EMA right there at that 234 area. So 234 is a very important resistance, that zone. We have the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame, and then we also have the 200 EMA on the hourly time frame. It's a confluence of resistance. Break that, and this thing is going to run. That's also where this like previous support becoming resistance happens to be. The next one's going to be at 238, so we'll see how Tesla does. So it does look a little bit more bullish technically speaking, but we have a tough resistance to fight for. Tesla might try to break it. If it does break it, it's going to be a good sign, but we'll just have to wait and see just for confirmation. The share price is holding up well. It's outperforming the market, so it's a good sign for tomorrow. We'll see if we can break this resistance. For SPY, however, I want to say this. SPY is neither super bullish or super bearish. We're just completely range bound. And we've actually shifted a lot. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So before we had a very, very nice looking trend. And now we've become a lot more indecisive. We're actually getting very tight. So look at the last 2 days on SPY. We have resistance at this 547 area, excuse me, for SPY. And then we have support all the way down here around the 542 zone. Look at the last 2.5 days, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's not really doing much. So we're indecisive now. Instead of getting a nice break of 547, if we were to break that, we'd be looking for the 550 plus area. And if we lose 542, there's a big gap to fill down to 539. So lose 542, we're bearish. Break 547, we're more bullish. Otherwise, we're just trading sideways in the middle. Now, I would love to give you guys a really, really nice prediction, tell you what I think is going to happen. But at this point, we're so indecisive. We're just trading completely flat. That the best thing for me to tell you is just to be patient and wait and see. For ES, we're also trading kind of sideways. We have this resistance around this 5,500 area, and we have support all the way down here around the 5480 zone as well. So that's going to be very important to be watching for. We're just kind of stuck in the middle. One thing that does concern me a little bit for ES, though, is this trend. There's a bit of a downtrend. This is like the much bigger picture. This does not mean we have to drop or anything. It's always possible for us to break through this. Just want to call this out. But the trend is, this is what it's looking like on the much bigger time frames. We did attempt to rebound, but only to slow down. So that's where ES is right now. If we break past the 5520s, we'll be looking for a big push past our 200 EMA. If we end up dipping back down below the 5480s, we'll be coming back down. I'll be waiting to see how things go, so be very, very patient. For SPX, we're also trading kind of sideways, so we're completely flat right now. If we were to break past the 5480s, if this were to break, we also have our 200 EMA around the 5490s to be watching for its resistance. If we break this, SPX could be coming back up to fill the gap. If we end up losing 5440 right over here where this support is, I'll be looking for a move all the way back down to the lower 5400s. What are we doing right now? We're just trading sideways, back and forth, back and forth. It's just choppy. So it's getting tight because a big move is coming either tomorrow or by Wednesday. There's going to be a big move coming to SPX in the markets, especially because of Jerome Powell's speech and whatever the Fed tells us. So get ready for FOMC on Wednesday. We're going to be looking for a big move by then. So as of right now, we're indecisive, but just keep this in the back of your mind. Nvidia is not looking that great because look at the last 3 days, okay? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, sideways price action, but we're actually below our 112 support. So it's showing a little bit of weakness right now, and is showing a risk of potentially dipping a little bit lower if we don't reclaim 112. So typically when you do break support, you want to see a follow through move. If the follow through move is more bearish, we could be dipping all the way down towards the just under 110. If we break past 112, we'll be looking for the 112s. 112.63, excuse me, and then 114. But it's looking a little bit weaker to me looking at this structure. So it does have a risk of more downside for tomorrow. Bitcoin's dipping a little bit, but we'll have to see if we hold support. We went all the way up to 70,000. That was my target. We called that very, very nicely yesterday. Now we're dipping back down. If we were to lose the 66,000 area, I'd be looking for a dip all the way back down here, all the way down towards 65,796. If we break past 67,000, we'll be looking for a little rebound. There's a little bit of weakness here as we're making lower highs and lower lows, at least possibly. So it might dip a little bit more. So we'll see. This is one thing I want to remind you guys about the markets. So one day, we could be looking bullish, we could be looking like we want to push. So for example, like right here, if you were looking at the chart like this yesterday, it looked like this. I would say that this is forming a very, very nice structure. We look a little bit more bullish, and lo and behold, the bullish move came all the way up to 70,000, right? We actually got that nice push. And then when we finally got there, I was not recording at this time. Then the rejection came afterwards. So we did call out that move to the upside, but it was followed by a rejection. And that came later. I did call that later on in my video when the rejection already started. But I just want to make it very clear that I could call, one or two moves ahead. I could be right the majority of the time, but I can't call every single piece of volatility that happens in the markets. That is why you have to understand price action and let the price action dictate your own analysis. So I want to help you guys learn how to analyze charts as well. Hopefully, my videos are insightful for doing so. I don't always want to just give you every single answer because I'm not going to be here 24/7 for everyone. I'm going to be 100% honest about that. Anyways, NQ is dipping a little bit. There's a little bit of weakness developing on this chart on the 1 hour time frame. You guys can see how there's this wick forming right here. So this is going to likely lead to this dipping just a little bit more. We could be getting all the way down to the lower 19,000 area, but there's a strong support at 19,000. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. This also implies that the QQQ could dip just a little bit, but it also depends on PayPal's earnings. If we break 466, if we break that, look for 468 all over again or higher. If we lose 462, we'll be dipping back down towards 460. We're kind of stuck in the middle, going back and forth and back and forth. So we'll just have to give this some time just to see how things end up moving. For Apple, we're also stuck in the middle, trading sideways. We're currently testing 219 as resistance. We also have support down here at 216. So we're just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, completely stuck at least right now. However, if we were to break 220, we'll be looking for a nice bounce. So we'll see if that ends up being the case for Apple or not. So I'll have to give this some time. Otherwise, we're just completely indecisive. So give that a little bit more time for now. So for tomorrow, I think Apple's going to trade sideways, chop around, and there's going to be a big reaction possibly by Wednesday, especially as we approach earnings. So you have to be a little bit more patient on this one. For Palantir, it's looking not the best. So we're looking for a push towards 28 yesterday. We touched 27.8 only to reject off bearish news. So we're stuck now. We have like a head and shoulders like structure. Might consolidate a bit if we fail to break past 27.22. Look for a move back down towards 26.5. That's looking more probable, at least from a technical standpoint. For Supermicro, we're just trading sideways right now. If we manage to break past 705, I'll be looking for basically 730. We did push to about 730 only to reject back down. And if we end up failing to hold and get back above 700, I'll be looking for a dip back down towards these lows into the 680s. From a technical standpoint, there is a bearish divergence right here. So I think there's a risk of us dipping back down towards the 680s. So we'll just have to see how things end up developing from here. For Rivian, we're kind of trading sideways right now, going back and forth and back and forth. We have this 16.43 area as resistance. We have support down here at 16. We've been going back and forth for now. We're just kind of stuck in the middle. So everything is, it's looking okay. I think that there's going to be a retest of about 16.38. So right where these EMAs happen to be. And there's not really much going on. It's just completely sideways. So I do think it's going to be a little pop and then some more sideways consolidation. For SoFi, I can't say much about this. Depends on earnings. If it does really well for earnings, we could actually break past 7.8. If not, we could be losing our lows into the sixes, excuse me. So we're just kind of stuck right now. So give SoFi some time. For the IWM, there are two possibilities. Now, this was outperforming, but I'm seeing a little bit of weakness developing even in the after hours. If this is a cup and handle, I want to see it bounce near the 220 area and start pushing back up to 224. If we fail at 220, we could be dipping down to 218. That's going to be a sign of weakness. It's looking a little bit more like it's going to be dipping down to 218, then maybe bounce, but we'll have to wait and see. There is a risk of more downside for 220 to be tested, and we'll see if it bounces or not, but just keep that in the back of your mind. For ARM, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now. I'm going to be looking at this structural support all the way down here towards the 138 area. If that fails us, we'll be dipping lower. If we break past 140, we'll be looking for a bounce. But right now, there's a little bit of weakness on AMD. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It might dip a little bit. We'll see what happens with earnings tomorrow, though. That's going to cause a big move. ARM also has earnings in just a few days, so I can't wait to see what this also leads to. That's going to be very important. So we'll see. ARM depends on what earnings give us. There's a head and shoulders right now, so it looks a little bit more bearish, technically speaking, but we'll be very patient nonetheless. For Coinbase, we have a head and shoulders as well. If this were to lose 230, we'll be looking down for this gap fill all the way down into the 220 area. If we hold 230, we could try to rebound towards 235. But I just want to say that right now there's a head and shoulders looking a little bit more weak, and there is a risk of us dipping a little bit lower. So Coinbase is favoring downside looking at its patterns. So we'll just have to see how things progress from here. Amazon's also kind of dipping right now on a downtrend, but it depends on if we can try to break past 184 or not. If we lose 182, I'll be looking for a move back down to about 180. It's not going to look too good. But if we break past 180, 184, we'll be looking for basically 186.5. We're just trading sideways, so give this some time and then we'll see how things go. For Meta has support very close to this 460 area. I think we might test this. If that breaks, we have a gap to fill down here towards 454. So we'll see how things go. It's looking a little bit weak to me. So I do see it testing 460. We'll see if it bounces or not, though. But there's going to be a little bit of downside, most likely. Microsoft looks a little bit more bearish to me. I think we're going to likely be dipping down to this next imbalance. Might be coming down to 422 if 425 fails us. And to be bullish, we want to break past 427.5. For Google, we kind of reject off our 50 EMA. We started dipping a little bit towards 168. We'll have to see if that holds or not. There might be a little dip coming. We have this imbalance here, so I think the 168s could be coming. For GameStop, looks a little bit more bearish off the head and shoulders. Could be dipping to the, I would say, the lower 23s. AMC is also just shopping around, not really doing a whole lot. So we'll be looking for a test of 5.2. The structure is a little bit more bullish, though. This structure right here, if we break past 5.3, this thing is going to break out. Otherwise, just completely choppy. So we'll just have to wait and see. For DJT, there was more bad news that came out, sadly. So we'll see if 30 holds us. If 30 does not hold, 28 is going to be coming next. So be careful with DJT. I'm seeing some downside potential. So it's showing a little bit of weakness. The VIX is very indecisive right now. It's not really giving us much information. I would have to wait on this just to see what the next move is going to be. The 10-year treasury yield is also kind of trading flat. We have this gap to fill above, but just give this some time. So we'll just have to see how things move. It's very indecisive. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the dollar. Now, this is a little bit more concerning because the dollar has an inverse head and shoulders, and it's actually starting to push now. So because we're above 104.5, if it maintains this structure and starts breaking out and gets closer to 105, that's going to be causing a rug pull for the markets, guys. So you want to be very, very careful. So we'll see how the dollar performs. At least that favors the odds of a little bit more downside. And for the markets, I think that's a better way to word everything. If we were to hypothetically lose 104.35, we could be dipping back down lower on the dollar, and that could actually lead to more upside for the stock market. But because the dollar is looking like it wants to push higher, this could make things a little bit more complicated. So I want to give you guys a warning about this. This kind of puts me on the edge to be a little bit more cautious than usual, be very cautious with the market because of this. So we'll see. We'll see if this is just a trap, if anything else happens, because the market's also going to be reacting to a lot of catalysts like FOMC and earnings. So we'll see how things end up going. Anyways, with all that, sideways chop, all that indecision from the markets, Tesla is in its own world, looking more bullish. If we break that 234 resistance, look for even more upside. We could get closer to the 240 area. So we'll see how things go if we break this or not. So be very, very patient. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before the market opens for another update. I appreciate you guys so much for your kind words, all your nice comments and everything like that. You guys are really, really meaningful to me, and I just want the best for everyone out there. Have a great day, have a great evening, have a great night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys once again tomorrow. Thanks again, and peace out.